Hello, this is the page of illustrate.nvim. It's a Lua plugin for neovim that basically lets you manage figures within documents like LaTeX, Markdown, or Typst. So the basic idea behind the project is that sometimes you work with documents where you have to edit figures, vector documents like in Inkscape or Adobe Illustrator, and in big projects you will have multiple such figures and possibly in different sections or chapters. And the main idea behind this plugin is to let you edit and create such figures much more easily within neovim. I will show you exactly how to do that with an example. So if you will need first to install the plugin, and there are instructions of how to do that with different plugins. So for example, for lazy, that would be your installation. You will have to install from this GitHub repository. There are certain dependencies. And then here we define certain keystrokes to invoke different things from the plugin. So for example, if you want to create a new SVG, we have binded that to letter IS to create illustrations using SVG. And then if you want to create Adobe Illustrator versions of the figures, you can use that. And then if you want to open a certain figure within your document, and while your cursor is under that figure, you can use letter IO. And then if you want to search and open for all the figures within your project, you can do letter IF. And then here you can clone a figure. So there are certain configuration you can do as well in the plugin. We will explain this later in this tutorial. So there are certain examples of how you can use this plugin with LaTeX and Typst. So let's get started with Typst. So imagine that you want to create a new document. You know, this document will have certain text. So you can just create test.type. That will be your Typst document. You can just paste that text in there. And then basically let me also preview that so you can see a preview of this document. So you can see here I have the preview of my document, and let's say I want to create a new figure. Traditionally, I would have to open my file manager or open Inkscape or Adobe Illustrator, create the figure, then save it on the file system, and then come here and start typing, how to insert the figure. Well, with the Illustrator NVim, you can automate this by just doing letter IS. You can see that we are prompt to provide a file name, so we can type something test, and then it's prompting us to provide also a caption. This is a figure, and even a label for that figure. We can say fig example or something like that. That will be the label that we can then use to refer to that figure within our document. Hitting enter, you can see that we have the code already included in the text, and automatically it created the test.svg in the file system and opened that within our default vector document, which happens to be Inkscape. Now I can just very easily, and you can see that we have the figure there. Now it's currently empty because we have an empty canvas. But now we can just, for example, create this text here. We can save it, and you can see that immediately we have it appearing in our document. We can even type text here, and we can save that, and we can close it now. And you can see that we have a figure inserted into the document automatically with the caption, with the label, all working pretty nicely. Okay, now let's say that we want to open and edit that figure. What we can do, we can get our cursor, go inside the figure, and then doing letter IO, it will open that figure in the default vector document, and then we can, we can edit that, and we can do something more. We can close it, and you can see that we very quickly open the document, edited, save it without leaving neovim. And of course we have other options. For example, let's say that you have multiple figures in this document, and possibly within different types document. So let's say this is the introduction, and then you have another file for the literature review or whatever. So you have multiple figures appearing within your project. So if you do leader IF, you can see that we get this model here that you can then search for documents. Here we happen to have just one figure. Let's create some more. So I will do leader IS to create a new figure, and then we can just say test, and then we inserted that there. Let's just, I don't know, just type something here like this. Save it, close it, right? And now you save that here. Now, if you do leader IF again, you can see that you can search through your different figures. Hitting enter will open that figure in your default vector document. You can edit and close and so on. So it provides all of this useful functionality straight within neovim. This is just an example with types. We can also try, and by the way, if I do ls here, you can see that we have the figures directory appearing, and if we go in there, you can see we have those files automatically created by the plugin. So let's now try an example with LaTeX. So I will just create a main.text here, and then we can edit that as well. Let's get some example from LaTeX. So if we have something like, let's do the main, we'll just copy that, and then you can just have like section hello or something like that, or we can just make it a chapter actually. And then let me just launch a preview of it. Okay, so here we see the preview. So we have the preview of our document. You know, you can just type here, save it, and this will compile and appear into our document right there. Just zoom in a little bit, and the same idea goes here. I do leader IS to create a new figure. I will call this test, and then we can provide the caption for it. So we can say this is a figure, and then fig test or something like that. You see now that illustrate.nvim understands the context that we are working with a LaTeX document. So it now inserted a LaTeX code for including a figure. It automatically derives the right path to include there. It includes the caption, it includes the label, and then automatically opens that into Inkscape. And we can, as like before, you know, save this here. We can do x to the power of 2 or something like this, and then save it. And when you save it, you can close. And if I save the document here, it will take a while until it compiles, but then it will compile and it will show me my figure. And this is another example, and the same idea goes here. If I do leader IF, I get the prompt to search for multiple figures within my document. The same idea goes here. Let's say that I wanted to clone this figure and edit it slightly. I can do leader IC, and then it asks me to choose a figure to clone. We have only one figure, so I will hit enter. And now it's asking me for a new file name, and we can call this test2. If I hit enter, it has now created a test2 environment figure here. Open it, clone it. So now we can, you know, just edit this. We can make it like that, save, quit. And then if I save the document, it will automatically compile again, and we will get our second figure just right there. And then what we can do leader IF to search for different figures, and we can open figures straight from within neovim. This was an example with LaTeX, but we can also do this with Markdown. So test.md, you know, we can do that. So we can do hello there. So now if I do leader IS, you can see it's asking me to provide a file name. I can call this test3 or something. I can provide a caption, and then you can see straight away we can, you know, create the figure, save it, close it, and now it appears as a figure within a Markdown document. So that is illustrate.nvim. It's just a handy utility plugin for neovim that allows you to create, search, open and edit figures in vector format in software like Inkscape, Adobe Illustrator, or even Affinity Designer 2 for Mac OS. So one thing that is worth showing to you is basically the configuration you can do. The software comes with certain parameters that you can tune, all of which appear by default here. So first of all, we have the illustration dir, that is the name of the folder that the plugin will create for you when you create new figures. So by default, this can be figures, but you can name it whatever you want. Then we have certain directories where we avoid creating illustration directories in. By default, we have sections and chapters. So if we don't have a figures directory appearing anywhere in the project, then this will try to create one within, it will avoid creating one within sections and chapters. Then by default, prompting you to provide a caption and label is off. And if you want that functionality, you have to set those to true. And then also we have directories of where default files or templates files appear. So if you wanted to bootstrap your templates with something else, you can provide that within the configuration as well. And then here we have the text templates. This is how we define how the predefined or automatic code will appear in the text. So for LaTeX, that's the default code that it's going to be included. These are the parameters that will get replaced by the plugin. Similarly then for Markdown, and then for Typst here. Okay. So, and then down here we have the default app. By default, this is Inkscape. The other options, if you say Illustrator, it will open Adobe Illustrator, or if you have Affinity Designer 2 on Mac OS, you can say Affinity 2, and this will launch the Affinity 2 software. Here is my configuration of my illustrate.nvim. Again, this appears also in the page here. You can see it here. Okay, so within opts here, you can provide your configuration. So for example, if I come down here, you can see my default software is Inkscape. I can change that to something else. I can say, for example, Affinity 2 for SVGs and Adobe Illustrator files and so on. You can change that. And also I wanted to have the prompt for caption and labels, so I set those to true. Again, you can find those parameters within here. This is the table providing you with the different parameters. For example, if I wanted to change the name of the directory that gets created, I can change this to illustrations or something like that instead of figures. You can configure the plugin within this section here. So that's basically it. I hope you find this plugin useful. And so that's it. Thank you.